Okay, we're going to look at the creation of a box and whisker plot, which is going to use that 5-number summary to reveal characteristics of a data set. Now, the box and whisker plot is another visual way to describe data. So we saw stem and leaf display in this course. We've seen stem and leaf display. We've seen frequency distribution tables. We've seen histograms, and now here is the box and whisker plot. It's a graphical display that can be used when there are a small number of data values in a distribution. So we just had 10, which is perfect for this. And therefore, the construction of a stem and leaf display, a bar chart, or a histogram may not be appropriate. Okay, for all of these, stem and leaf display, and we didn't really create a bar chart, but histograms are similar. All of those used, we had at least 30 data values when we constructed these visual displays. So if we have anything less than that, a box and whisker plot is ideal. A box and whisker plot could also be used with larger data values as well. I mean, a greater number of data values in a distribution as well. It's useful when identifying whether a distribution's shape is symmetric or skewed. Okay, so we can look at its shape and come to a conclusion about it based on the appearance of the final product. Okay, this is what a completed box and whisker plot looks like. We have a box in the center, and on either side of the box you have these things that come out, which are called the whiskers. And this is how the data values are divided up. This point, you can think of the box and whisker plot being placed on top of a horizontal line that contains the data values listed in increasing order from left to right. This point represents the smallest data value. Okay, so the edge of the left whisker represents the smallest data value. The edge of the right whisker represents the largest data value. Okay, in between, we have the left edge of the box representing Q1, the right edge of the box representing Q3, and at some point in the center we have a line down the middle for the median. Now, it may not be exactly down the middle, okay, because Q1, let's suppose Q1 is the data value 20 and Q3 is the data value 30. Okay, if the median were 25, then that line would be exactly down the center. But the median could be something like 23, which would position it a little bit left of center. And that's possible. You could have 25% of your data values between 20 and 23, and you could have another 25% of your data values between 23 and 30. It's all the way the data values happen to fall in your distribution that would indicate where that line is drawn. The other thing that may be different from one box and whisker plot to the next is the length of each whisker. Notice that the left whisker is shorter than the right whisker. Okay, 25% of the data values fall between the smallest data value and Q1. So imagine that the smallest data value is 10 and Q1 is 20. Okay, 25% of the data values would fall between 10 and 20. Now suppose that Q3 was 30 and the largest data value was 60. That's why this side's whisker is longer. 25% of the data values fall between 30 and 60, which is going to produce a longer whisker on the right-hand side. So again, it's all the way the data values of the distribution lie. Okay, we're going to build this on the calculator, and then we're going to discuss it with specific numbers. These data values are already in a list on our calculator, so it should already be in L1 or L2, wherever you put it. We're going to set the stat plot settings last time we went into this menu, we were building a histogram. So we're going to turn it off of the histogram and change it to, if you remember, this was the histogram up here. This is where we set it for that lecture. We're going to set it to Box and Whisker Plot, which is the center image on the second row for this activity. Your L1 should be the list where your data is. Frequency can be set at 1. You'll press the zoom key, go down to menu number 9, zoom stat, and hit enter. When you press the zoom key, which is at the top of the screen, at the top right below the calculator screen, this is what it looks like. You go down to number 9 and hit enter, or you could just press the number 9 and then hit enter. Let me show you how this appears. Okay, our data is still in here from before. So there we go. Okay, our data is still here from before. The stat plot settings are in blue above the y equals key. So if I press second stat plot, I can change this from a histogram to a box and whisker plot. Now notice that the first one is on. Make sure that the others are off. Okay, now how do you do that? You click into each one individually. You could use your arrow down key, click into it, and then press or move your cursor onto the off key, and then press enter. Make sure it gets turned off. Okay, so going back to stat plot. Okay, so making sure all three are off but only one is on, press the one that's on. This was set from earlier, the histogram, so using your arrow down key to go to the type, you're going to use your arrow right key to wrap around. Keep pressing right, and that's going to wrap around to the second row. Once you're on that middle image on the second row, press enter. It's now darker behind it. It's got like a background of black now, and that's what you want. You want it to be set on Box and Whisker Plot. This one is a modified Box and Whisker Plot. We're not going to be doing that in this class, so be careful not to choose that option. When this one is highlighted, use your down arrow key and choose the list where your data is. Okay, so second and whatever list, and frequency should be set at 1. Okay, so with the plot settings set, you're going to press the zoom key, which is right here, zoom, okay, that's not what it should look like. Let's try it again. Let me quit, zoom. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure why I got that screen just there. If you ever get something strange, just quit it using the blue quit key and then press the button that you're trying to get to. 9, so press number 9. Okay, and there's our Box and Whisker Plot. Now I have something going on down here. Let me just double check. Okay, if ever you have some other visual image coming up on your calculator, it may be because you used the calculator for another class, or you inadvertently pressed something at this point. If you press y equals, you're going to any functions that have been placed into your calculator can be removed here. So press the clear button, and that's going to remove anything, and you should just give a double check to see if anything else exists here. Okay, you scroll all the way down. Okay, once that's good, I'm going to go back to this and do it again. Zoom number 9. Okay, now that's perfect. So here's our Box and Whisker Plot. We have smallest data value, Q1, median, Q3, largest data value. And here you can consider this line here, the horizontal axis, with all of the data values scaled from small to large. If we press the trace button, we have a flashing cursor right on the median. And look at the bottom of the screen. It says MED equals 49. That's the calculator's notation for the median, and it equals 49. Now that 49 matches the 5-number summary that we got when we did this using one of our stats. Using our arrow left and right, we're going to run through the box and whisker plot. So moving all the way to the left, okay, flashing on the smallest data value, it says min x and it equals 12. Okay, and that is what we got before. Going a little bit over, we have Q1 and that equals 29. Okay, so if this is 12, and this is 29, it means that 25% of the data values in our data set fall between 12 and 29. Going over a little bit further, our median is 49. So if this is the 25th percentile, which was 29, and 49 is the median or the 50th percentile, we have 25% of the data values falling between 29 and 49. Moving over again to the third quartile, Q3, or the 75th percentile, it's 67, meaning that 25% of our data values fall between 49 and 67. Also, you can also interpret this as meaning 75% of our data values fall at or below 67. Now the last part of this requires some or deserves some interpretation. It's a very long whisker as compared to this whisker on this side. And if we use our arrow right key, we see that its value is 130. Okay, so if this is the 75th percentile, then at 130 we have the data value where 100% of all the data values fall below 130. Okay, 130 being the biggest means that every single data value falls at or below 130 in our distribution. The length of this whisker represents the upper 25% of all the data values. So 25% of the data values fall between 67 and 130. Remember, 25% of our data values also fell between 49 and 67. Now, because there's such a large range between 67 and 130 for the same percentage of data values, that's the reasoning for getting this large whisker off onto the right hand side. Okay, it still represents 25% of our data values, but it's covering a large range. It's covering every number between 67 and 130. Now, again, there's still only 25% of them, but it's covering a larger range, which is the reasoning for a larger whisker. Okay, let's go back to our presentation. Okay, so I don't know if I made it obvious, to get that 5-number summary on the bottom of the screen there, you had to press the trace key, and the trace key is using your arrow right and arrow left. Once you hit trace and you arrow to the right, you'll be able to see all the 5-number summary at the bottom of the screen. Okay, so how would you draw a box and whisker plot on paper after